How much of fraud do you think went into this election? How much fraud?
You know, I think that there is a chance that there is some fraud that's gone on. Was it the fraud that got John F. Kennedy into office? No. I mean, you didn't have two entire states where there were numerous hundreds of thousands of dead people voting. Mm-hmm. So, yes, there might have been a tiny bit of fraud. I think, and there's likely fraud in every single election, and there'll be fraud in the 2022 midterms, and that's just a part of life. But again, it was great weather nationwide. You had the highest turnout. You had 66.9% turnout in this election. You have to go back to the year 1900. Mm-hmm. That's the last time we had this high a voter turnout.
120 years.
1900, the presidential election. So, again,
you said percentage-wise turnout?
Percentage-wise, yes.
What was the percentage?
73.2% turnout in 1900, 66.9% turnout in 2020. And because, again, I mean, weather is if you've got a foot of snow on the ground in the Midwest, you're not going to have that many people voting. It was unusually...
You brought up that it was a nice weather day.
It was a nice weather day nationwide, and you had lots of people voting on election day as well. And when you listen to the states, whether it's the Attorney General of Michigan or Wisconsin, they were like, it was just a normal day. We had just a few snafus here and there. You had polls open late in Atlanta. They compensated by that for staying open an hour late. So it was a very smoothly run election day.
By the way, if you're watching this and if you think there was voter fraud, press thumbs up. Push thumbs up. If you think there wasn't any voter fraud to the point where it could influence the entire election, put thumbs down. So either thumbs up for yes, there was voter fraud, thumbs down, there wasn't. Did you see the Project Veritas video yesterday with Michigan?
I did not.
Okay, so do you know it came out very late? It came out like, I don't know what time, but it came out late. Do you know how many views it got in the first 7 hours on Twitter? Have you seen it?
Million views.
How many views do you think got on Twitter? On Twitter,
I don't know, a couple 100,000.
7 million views in 7 hours. Can you pull up the video? I just want you to see what happens here. And for me, I can tell the difference between an act and when you listen to the voice, you don't hear somebody that's acting. Listen to this guy on how he speaks and who he is. That's 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Where you work?
I work in the Traverse City Post Office, more specifically the Ballot branch.
Your boss told you and your colleagues something that shocked you this morning. What was it?
We were issued a directive this morning to collect any ballots we find in mailboxes, collection boxes, just outgoing mail in general, separate them at the end of the day so that they could hand stamp them with the previous day's date. Today is November 4th, for clarification.
Who is your boss?
Adam.
What is his title?
I saw this.
Jonathan would be a direct supervisor, yes. As of right now, he is the opening supervisor for the Ballot branch post office. So and this is anecdotal, carrier down in another office said they watched the postmaster doing it.
So you know what they're saying.
If it were just a typical day, it would be clerks doing it up at the distribution center.
So 8 p.m. election day, November 3rd. The Court of Appeals ruled ballots have to be received by that time. And what were you told?
To separate them today so they could mark them with yesterday's date and send them through the express system to wherever they needed to go.
This appears to be an attempt to circumvent Michigan law and allow late votes. And you said there was a hamper where letter carriers were supposed to leave their ballots. Where are the ballots now?
They were putting them into express bags to go to the distribution center. In regards to a hamper, there was a standard hamper that all letter mail is supposed to go to, and they had a tub next to it that we were supposed to put any ballots collected today into.
Yes. What made you come forward?
That's sketchy. I don't like sketchy. It screams corruption.
He doesn't sound like he's acting.
This guy's voice is very shady.
Yeah.
What's your message to other postal workers who see things like this?
Report it. How are we supposed to have any integrity in this country if we are just going to let things slide based on
Which what happens at the end.
Are you afraid of retaliation against you?
I've had whistleblower policies backfire on me in the past, so yes.
We'll have to reach out to Jonathan Clark for comment. Hey, is this Jonathan?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a reporter with Project Veritas, James O'Keefe here.
Click.
And I have information that you guys have been stamping ballots with the previous date, November 3rd. He just hung up the phone on me. He just hung up the phone on me.
What's your
this type of unsubstantiated, the source is unknown, could have come from anybody.
Yeah, but why did the guy hang up?
Who's saying on the phone for that?
No, you're
Hey,
not.
I don't know you, but I'm about to call you.
And
basically accuse you
how
of
many
something.
crazies do you think have called that person all day long?
But here's a question for you. So both of you are saying this is nothing.
That's not what I said.
Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. No. I'm not saying
Okay.
it's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm saying it is potentially something that could be investigated.
Yeah.
But
And should be investigated.
So
And should be investigated.
Fair.
Okay.
So investigate it.
Yes.
So we put the election on hold, and we investigate this to see if there's anything to it before we announce the president.
Well,
I agree.
I don't think the entire
I
election
totally
is
agree
going
with
on
you.
hold
But
because
that's
some
Michigan.
dude made a
By the
phone
way,
call.
120,000 ballots in Michigan were dropped, and in Wisconsin that were Trump votes. Play the other thing on what happened in California here. Watch this one in California. I mean, you're seeing this stuff all over the place. And to me, make the video in a way. Is there anything you can do to the video, Kai, or no? I want to show this video. See if you can change the video in a format. Man, you got to find a video and maybe copy paste it. But go ahead. You were going to say something.
Just a couple different things. Obviously, there's people out there who are just fraudulent. It's
I'm
fraud,
not there.
it's
Just
fraud,
so you
it's
know,
fraud.
I'm not in the fraudulent camp.
You know what camp I'm in?
What's that?
I'm in the count it once, count it twice, count it 3 times, bring it to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
There's no chance I want Biden winning this election and having 4 years of he stole it. It's all illegal. I want it to be triple checked.
I'm on the same page.
Triple checked.
I'm on the
and
same
if it
page.
comes out that the vote calculations are totally off and totally different.
You lost. Just man up.
Yeah,
You lost.
there's no chance that I want 4
question.
years of more chaos in this country.
All right, so watch this
I
video.
want it to be triple
How come they already
checked.
called the state?
Because these are mail-in ballots.
Are there a ton in there?
Yeah.
All right. Are you collecting from a lot of places?
By the way, this is in California.
Yeah, this is California.
Which,
but they called in very early.
California? You
I
think
get it.
California's flipping?
But even with that,
I'm not
All right,
a
I'll
fan
follow
of this.
watch
I'm
this.
just saying.
Thank you,
Just
guys.
watch this.
Are you guys official election guys? All right. And let me just ask you one thing. Where do you guys take them?
Election center. That's it.
watch what happens when she gets
Is that
closer.
in the government building?
LA County.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there a lot more in there?
Watch what he says.
Get
Okay.
back.
It's 6 feet.
Thank you, guys. I just want to see because they called our state so quickly. I know. I am.
You don't have a mask either.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Are they allowed to do that? So look, the people, the folks who are upset saying there's voter fraud, I went and looked at history of voter fraud just to kind of see what voter fraud happened last night and this morning because I'm actually curious now for voter fraud, right? So do you know how elections were up until 1804? Do you know how we chose presidents and vice presidents up until 1804?
You had duels and you would shoot your opponent.
Yeah, well, that was actually not a bad setup, right? But do you actually know how they did it? Like I didn't know this. Danielle, did you know how they did it up until 1804?
No, I wasn't around then.
So when you and I ran, if you got 2 million, I got 1,000,009, you become the president, I become the vice president.
Awesome.
Oh yes,
Crazy,
yes,
right?
yes.
Pretty
yes.
intense.
Right.
I mean, you heard about it.
You lose your number 2.
You lose your number 2. So can you
Hey,
imagine?
first or last?
Biden would become president. Let's just say, and Trump will become his VP.
So Biden would have 4 more years of ribbon cutting.
Yes, so but just think about that.
Basically.
That's
Could you-
how it was.
could you imagine
the
Biden
fact
president,
that
Trump
my
VP?
my mind went there, dude, thinking, what if that actually was the case?
I love
so
it,
So that's
actually.
up until 1804. Now,
I
in
love it.
1803, there was something called cooping. Are you familiar with cooping?
I know about riding in a coupe.
You
but I
know,
don't
when you know what
cooping.
cooping, you know what cooping was called.
Tell
Here's
me.
what cooping was. Cooping back in the days, and this went till 1920, by the way. It went up until Al Capone. Cooping was, they would find people in the streets. They would pull you off. They would get you drunk. They would give you drugs. They would disguise you to go vote multiple times for different people. That's what was
Give
called
you a
cooping.
fake mustache.
And by the way, craziest story. Edgar Allan Poe died outside of a voting poll on election day. And they say he was one of the folks that was used for cooping. So this
famous
is
author,
then
poet.
you continue up until 1890. Do you know up until 1890 how they did election? You had to publicly say who you voted for.
Oh, God.
So you asked her a question yesterday. You would
Danielle,
go.
would you be willing to tell us how you voted for hell?
But
no.
up until 1890, you would say, "I'm voting for Trump. I'm voting for Biden," and everybody would know up until 1890.
Let's bring it back.
So then they said, "Listen, this is a little too out of control. It's going to piss people off. Nobody can keep it a secret." So some people actually didn't want to come out and vote because they said, "I'd rather not vote than tell people who I'm voting for." They said, "We got to change it." So then eventually around 1890 or so, they changed it to a secret ballot. And secret ballot was a system that they took from Australia. It's how Australia did it for the longest time. So this led to the largest change because now you could go and it was specific rules and guidelines they put up. It was in an indoor space in public buildings run by government officials. There will be a single ballot to produce by states. The ballot would contain the names of the candidates with an option to also write in. The ballot will be completed in total privacy. That's what happened there. Now, from that time, even with secret ballots, fraudsters still showed up because of impersonation at the polls, false registration, duplicate voting, fraudulent absentee votes, buying votes, illegal assistance at the polls, ineligible voting, altering vote count, ballot petition fraud. And since 1980, there's been 1,071 instances of voter fraud. Even in
Say that last part again, please.
1,071 instances of voter fraud since 1980.
So in the last 40 years,
which is a small number.
There's
been a very
how many?
Small number. 1,071. By the way, the chances of there being a voter fraud, I'll give you the percent. I'm actually going to give you guys some content here. The chances of voter fraud is between 0.00040% up to 0.0009%. So 0.00004 to 0.0009.
So essentially less than 1%.
Less than 1%, yes. But there's been 1,071 cases of voter fraud. And I think the biggest concern people have right now, do you know how many votes Bush beat Gore by? In 2000, do you know how many votes
there was?
Like
a couple thousand votes in Florida, maybe even a couple hundred. Something ridiculous.
I don't think it was a couple 100,000. I think it was
a couple hundred.
Yeah, it was 539.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
In a state that
Florida,
it was not 539,000.
10 million voters.
539 voters. Okay, so
right now, as of 99% of votes having been counted to that, because God knows it's going to be running around on my Twitter feed later on. Right now, Biden has a 241,000 count lead over Trump in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, 250,000 almost.
Yeah, so
that's a massive lead.
But by the way,
thank you for 120,000.
Even if the whistleblower is correct, and there was an instance, if you will, and he did his civic duty, and rightly so, and blew the whistle. Even if that's the case, 241,000 is a plenty big margin, right? You have to do a recount automatically if your margin is in between 1%. It's not. You could drive a golf cart through it. So it's.
You're right. It's not. Wisconsin is, but Michigan is a different story.
And Danielle, let me say one thing. Thank you for bringing that up because I actually found out how. You know the total. The guy was like, "I'm at the Traverse City Barlow branch." You know the total population of Traverse City, 15,000. Total population in Traverse City, Michigan. I've been there. It's upstate Michigan.
Yeah.
But he's in the Barlow branch. So meaning he's in one post office in a 15,000 person city. So let's just say that there was some shady stuff. Let's say that guy was absolutely right, shady as hell. Maybe there's a couple hundred votes. Maybe a couple thousand. Maybe you just said there's only been 1,000 instances of voter fraud in 40 freaking years. So let's say that guy was shady as hell. What are we talking about? A couple hundred votes?
But you have to know that. I mean, you have to know there is a much bigger chance to do voter fraud with mail-in ballots. Much bigger chance to do voter fraud with mail-in ballots.
Of course there is.
If you don't agree with that, you're naive yourself. There's a much to say 160 million people voted. Biden got more votes than Obama. Are you saying he's a better candidate than Obama? I mean, it's not even close. Biden didn't even campaign. And he got more than Obama did. So the mail-in ballots changed the game.